Okay, this is part 2 of my discussion on Genesis, and where I left off was basically saying how even if you start out with two people, um, you know, how could you get over the whole fact of incest? Basically, I didn't actually cover the whole incest thing exactly, but the Messianic Jew friend I had that I worked with, he was making some weird story that didn't even make scientific sense to me, saying how when the Earth began, the atmosphere was so thick that it prevented the sun's radiation from tampering with our cells and our DNA, because sun radiation can alter our DNA and causing cancers and stuff. But the thing is, though, you can't really start with two people. Okay, and here's the thing. Genetically speaking, we all come from Africa, but biblically speaking, we all come from the Middle East. Now, I recently viewed a documentary talking about Finding Eden, and the cartographers, mapmaker people, they were using a technology where they can actually see skeleton rivers by using some form of a photographic digital software. And they found two dead skeleton rivers underneath the water that connected with the Euphrates, which is one of the three rivers that encompassed Eden. And this was located in Syria. And Syria, of course, is around that area where the Jews came from. But of course, biblically speaking, the biblical world is about 6,000 years old before Jesus. So 6,000 BC, 6,000, 7,000 is around when the human race began. And this is definitely pretty true, because one of the first civilizations was around 6,000 BC. Now, I find it interesting, though, is that the Hebrew Bible didn't start showing up until around 300 something BC, and the the Egyptian Book of the Dead and Egyptian religions was around 1000 to 2000 BC, much older than the Hebrew. Now, of course, you could say that these wandering Jews actually couldn't write down their religious beliefs yet, because they still had their own religious texts, but it didn't turn into the Bible, the Torah, as we know it, because scientists have dated that the Torah is around 350 years before Christ. And so and the thing is, some of the concept of heaven and hell wasn't, the Jews didn't have heaven and hell until they met the Egyptians. The Egyptians were the first civilization to have heaven and hell. But of course, I'm digressing now. I like to do that a lot. Back onto Genesis. The whole thing about incest with Adam and Eve, Adam lived about 900 years. Eve lived about, a little about that same time. And then he had Cain and Abel. Abel was killed by Cain, and then he had Seth. Seth means anointed, and he basically took the place. And then you have these other people called the Sethians, which is a Gnostic group. That's a whole completely different thing. A little tidbit there. And Seth later had children, and Cain was cast out for killing his brother, and he was given a wife. He knew his wife, which was basically his sister. Adam supposedly had 3 sons and 9 children altogether, 3 sons, 6 daughters. And they bred with their brother and sister. Now, of course, that would make sense. If you're the only people on Earth, you'd have to be with your brother or sister and your mother and father. That only makes sense, logically speaking, that way. And then when Noah, he was told that the earth would be flooded, so basically all life is destroyed. And now we are all descendants of Noah, who he took wife from different countries. And so technically we're descended from now 7 people. I don't really understand how that's possible. I just, it doesn't really make much scientific sense, especially dinosaurs. Dinosaur bones have been found to be much older than human bones, and now supposedly there is a passage in the Bible saying that there's these things called gargantuans, talking about giant beasts of some kind. I guess, people did find dinosaur bones. I mean, the ancient Greeks and Romans thought that mastodon bones were Cyclops bones. And the Chinese and English and all these civilizations where they found dinosaur bones thought they were dragons. That's why every civilization has dragons, because every civilization has dinosaur bones in their area. But there's actually a museum down in Kentucky called the Creation Museum where he shows animatronic humans and dinosaurs coexisting together. Now let's think of this logically. We've all seen The Lost World, and dinosaurs love humans. Not like, hey, let's toss a stick and I'll give it to you, love. More like, you look good with a side of mashed potatoes and gravy. That just doesn't. That's just a blatant, disrespect to the scientific community right there, saying that humans and dinosaurs existed at the same time while having humans still living. I don't think Adam could tame a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Not him, his wife, and their 9 children. That doesn't. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how many sit-ups you make. Because as soon as they ate that fruit of knowledge, they basically were dying. They just aged real slowly. They were immortal before, and they ate the fruit, and then they basically started dying. That meant they were immortal. That meant that they could be killed by dinosaurs, which supposedly existed at the same time. Because God created everything. I'm pretty sure nobody can argue that dinosaurs existed. But how could Adam live with all those dinosaurs? Right? Because there were dinosaurs in that area at the time. So, what the hell is that? Okay, you just gotta think about it. And the thing is, you gotta pick at the Genesis story and just know that it's really not supposed to be taken literally. It's just a story. Here's how I interpret it. God is the father, Adam and Eve are the children. Children are supposed to obey their parents. Your parents say something to do something, the children don't do it, the parents get angry, they cast you out. And that's basically what happens. And an original sin is basically the questioning of your higher being, your father or mother. And interestingly enough, when Adam and Eve are made, they're technically children because they are innocent to everything. They do not know. They just observe, romp, and play. But once they hit that age where they were corrupted by knowledge and outside influence, basically, and what age around this time in humans is, it's about the age of 13, 12, 13, puberty. And puberty is when people start actually noticing that their bodies are different and they become ashamed. Not everybody, but some people become ashamed. And that's why the whole Genesis story is a way of explaining to the children of the time period, wondering where everything came to be, and the Jewish elders didn't exactly know, but still they made up a mythological story to explain, to make them shut up. And in that, they made a parable telling them to obey their parents and telling them to not really question their authority, because these were nomadic tribes, and if you went against the group, you basically compromised the safety and security of your group, So it was all peer pressure. It's all psychological. It's not really a literal story. Nobody really knows what happens. Scientists don't even really know. They think they know, but they don't really know. Even if when they collided those two hadrons together, they'll still not know. They'll still not know what the hell happened. So we like to make up these stories to make us feel like we're not alone, make us feel like we have purpose. Well, here's the thing. You make your own purpose. You don't really, really what I do to keep me going in life is be kind to others. Don't be selfish. Think about, others. And sometimes you'll be led astray because there's many paths up that mountain. But we still go up to the mountain. Some are harder, some are easier, some are straighter, some are crookeder. But we all go to the same place. Now, I personally don't believe in an afterlife. But, that's a completely different thing. And this ends part 2.